Hey, choice is always good, right? What's going on, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and we've seen two LTE devices from AT&T. We've seen the Galaxy S2 Skyrocket and the HTC Vivid, which came out a few weeks ago. AT&T's bringing a third Android-powered LTE device to the market. Here's the LG Nitro HD, and it's packing a dual-core 1.5 gigahertz processor, a true 720p HD display that's 4.5 inches in size, and an 8 megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording. Now this thing's up to date with Android 2.3.5, and it's packing LG's custom interface. But the question is, at $250, should you go with this, should you go with the Skyrocket, or should you go with the Vivid, which is actually $50 cheaper? We'll try and find that out in the full review of the Nitro HD. But first, some love to Best Buy because they provide us with so many phones for use in our one-paw bandit game. When you go into Best Buy to get this, you walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your web, they'll get your camera settings on and ready to go, your browser settings, and more. So when you walk out that door, you're listening to your favorite music, and you're listening to your favorite music videos and things like that at Best Buy Mobile. Let's take a look at this LG Nitro HD. Is this the phone to get? Should you go? One other thing in part 2 I want to focus on, we covered in part 1, I wanted to show you the customizations in the menu as well. You can see applications down here, and then I scroll down and see downloads. Well, you can automatically close those if you want to and just access each folder one at a time, or you can come in here and you can click manage applications and you can move them around. You can uninstall the AT&T stuff from there without having to go into the settings. You can manage categories and add categories and more. So they do offer you some customizations in the menu as well, and that's just something I wanted to point out. So let's take a look at quadrant status. We're going to jump into the speed test stuff first because I want to cover this, not custom benchmark. We want to run the full benchmark, and I'll talk to you a little bit about reception. I was actually pretty surprised with reception on this device. It worked relatively well. I took it to an AT&T dead spot. There were obviously some issues connecting and some issues maintaining the call. It never dropped, but it was choppy and kind of laggy. A lot of background noise, static, things like that when I was on the calls in the dead zone. Otherwise, worked very well. Earpiece was nice and loud. My callers had no problems hearing me. They didn't report any craziness around the earpiece or the microphone or anything like that, and I had no problem hearing them on my end as well. Now, you're getting a 1,830 milliamp hour battery in this bad boy, and you know, for me with moderate use, I'm able to make it through a day. It's not by much. It's definitely, to me, a little bit worse than the Skyrocket. It's in between the Skyrocket and the Vivid. Out of my testing, and of course everybody's mileage differs, but out of my testing, I'd say the Skyrocket's the best, this one's second, and then the Vivid is third in terms of battery life. So that's something to keep in mind. But it did make it through the day with moderate use and into the evening. So 2,498 on quadrant standard, 2,498, and keep in mind that's, you know, take it with a grain of salt. It's just a benchmark. It's not official performance scores. That said, it's always kind of fun to see if you're a nerd, you know, which device performs better, so you can kind of boast to your friends and say, well, my quadrant standard scores are better than yours, hoo-ha. So 4G LTE in the Charlotte metro area. I've been testing it in my office, which is in Uptown Charlotte. I tested my home in North Charlotte. I've tested it in South Charlotte and in East Charlotte as well. And I've gotten, you know, pretty similar speeds across the board, regardless of where I'm at in the city. You can see the speeds here, 5-6 megabits per second, which, you know, kind of low, you know, in comparison to Verizon. I see, you know, on a regular basis 10 to about 15 megabits per second uptown, and you can see I did break 10 megabits per second there, but that was at 12:52 in the morning and off-peak time. So speeds haven't been, you know, as impressive as I would like them to be, especially when you're looking at these tests in markets like New York City, which is an unofficial market. It hasn't launched yet, but you know, you're seeing speeds like 30-40 megabits per second. You're like, man, I want some of that love in my city. But at least we have LTE, so we can be thankful for that. You can see right now it's running about 6.5, a little bit higher, 7 point, might get to 8. Let's see. Let's try it. 7.95, so almost 8 megabits per second on the download, and I will say their upload speeds have been pretty impressive as well. I'd say 4 to 7 megabits per second on the upload. Right now you're getting about 4.95 megabits per second. So pretty good, but again, you know, I've definitely seen, you know, better scores on Verizon, and I noticed they're more consistent on Verizon as well. Just all the way from the beginning of when the network launched here on December 5th, 2010 to now. And in the various markets I've been to since that have 4G LTE connectivity on Verizon, they're more consistent speeds as opposed to AT&T's. I feel like they're kind of across the board depending on the time of day and the network traffic, so just a little bit more unpredictable on the AT&T side. So let's take a look at MOG Music, because this is something that comes pre-installed. I think it's cool. You can access songs and all kinds of tracks from the internet. So you get a 7-day free trial, and then you can subscribe for $9.99 a month to your AT&T bill. So we can look up, for example, let's do Pitbull, and let's see if we can find anything. Let's do that. We're going to go to songs, and then we're going to go in here and see, let's see if we can find Let's go down a little bit. Let's see if we can find International Love. That's a good song, right? Been on that song lately. Put it down in New York City, all that good stuff. Let's see if we can find an international. There we go. And so we can go ahead and play it as part of our free trial. It's briefly out of reach at the moment. Let's try this. Skip track. Let's see if we can do it again. This is some real life testing here. Let's see if we can access it. There we go. Oh, we gotta play it. Oh. Remix! Right now. There we go. So you can see, you know, MOG is pretty nice, or MOG music is pretty nice because you can stream music. Now that said, you have to have a data connection, and you're going to want to have HSPA Plus or LTE to access those songs and to download stuff pretty quickly. But you do get that. You can see new releases. You can come in here and access some radio channels as well. MOG Radio, control the radio mode, and then you can configure it to how you want it. Again, 7-day free trial, $9.99 per month on your AT&T bill. After that, but still pretty useful application. You know, I'm quick to bash the applications that come pre-installed on these devices, but MOG is a pretty useful app. I've had some fun with it over the past couple of days, which is pretty cool. So anyway, let's go to contacts and take a look, because you know the phone application obviously different here depending on which version of Android you're using, and even though this is 2.3.5. Because it's got that LG scan, it looks a little bit different. So you got your island keys here, nice and separated, nice and roomy, and then down here you have text messaging, visual voicemail, and send. So you get some tabs up here as well. You can click on call log, click on contacts, and I put this one in just for fun, Jerry Martin, and we'll come back to that in just a second. But you can see groups, but we'll come back here and you see easy access, tight integration between Yellow Pages, and then of course you're in case of emergency. Contacts, and then we can come in here to Jerry Martin and take a look, which I just added a few minutes ago. So you can see opportunity to add a picture, opportunity to add favorites. You can come in here and see the history, the photo, the schedule, and more. So I can say, well, I called Jerry last night, and then the history would show up right there. And then with photos, if he's tagged, and then schedule as well, anything I'm working with him on, or contact events, things like that. But over here you can see shortcuts to call and text message, a shortcut to email, and it shows the group that he's involved in. So pretty typical Android here. I can select where I want the contact to be when I set it up for the first time. So I set it up an Old Man McTweety at Gmail this time around, but I can add, you know, an additional contact number. I can add some more details about his name if I want to, middle name, phonetic family name. Hey, if you want to do that, that's pretty cool too. And then add a picture, and then add additional emails, postal addresses, organization, and more. So they really do give you a lot that you can add here. And all in all, it's a pretty reasonable interface with the nice tabs that separate history and photo, but still not quite up to par with Sense, with TouchWiz, some of the more advanced user interfaces that have been through several different revisions. So let's take a look at the camera. We're going to bring over the HTC Titan for a sample shot here. 8 megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording. And if you want to see the video recording, take a look at the YouTube channel or on the site at phonedog.com. But I'm going to bring it over here rather, to Windows Phone so we can take a look. We're going to focus in on that. You do not get a physical camera button on this device, so you do have to rely on the on-screen button, but you can press it to focus, and when you let go, it'll take the picture. So actually I'm going to come up here to the HTC and get an idea, see what we can do with this thing. So all in all, it's a pretty decent looking picture, though. You know, I will say I think it's a little bit fooled, or you're a little bit fooled by the IPS True HD display. It really just makes everything look fantastic. But you can see overall, we'll bring it into the gallery here so you can take a look, and you can see the kind of scratches, if you will, or the scuffs around the camera. You can see the light reflecting off the metal, and you can see some stuff. So it's a good image, don't get me wrong. And you know, for anybody that does a casual click and shoot picture, you know, you're just shooting stuff outside, or shooting a picture of your cat like I do, I think you'll be perfectly fine with this picture. So here's a picture of cat from earlier, or actually from a couple of days ago, and even zoomed in, you can see, you know, it does get a little bit grainy, but it was a low lit room. So that's something to keep in mind. So overall, 8 megapixel camera does a decent job. It's not going to replace your point and shoot by any means, but for casual pictures, I think it's one of the better ones on the market, at least on the Android side. So that's pretty impressive. So all in all, you know, I like this device. You know, it's an okay phone. I think it's priced a little high. At $250, I would expect to see this around $199, or maybe if they just wanted to make a steal off of it, $149.99. But I don't see this at $250. I think when you look at this and you look at the Skyrocket, which is also $250, the Skyrocket is the better bang for the buck every single time. TouchWiz is very developed. It looks good. it isn't an HD display, which is very true. So if display quality is your thing, this may be your device, but it just feels better. This one just has kind of a cheap feeling to it. You know, and it's funny because LG did such a great job with the G2X, and then I feel like they kind of took a step back with the Revolution, and you know, to an extent maybe with this one, just in terms of design and the fact that they installed the LG user interface on it. Otherwise, you know, it's a pretty decent device. The screen's nice, the camera's good, the LTE speeds are very fast, and hey, choice is always good, right? Because you may like this phone, you may like the way it feels, and I don't. So I could get a Skyrocket, or I could get a Vivid, and you could get this, or you could get something else on AT&T. But all in all, you know, it's definitely a powerful device. It's a welcome addition to AT&T's lineup, but I think if you're like me and you're concerned about design and you know, you're concerned about the way it feels and maybe some of the touchscreen responsiveness, I think the better option at that same price tier is at $249.99 is the Skyrocket, or if you want to save some money, the HTC Vivid if you're in an LTE market and an LTE phone interests you. Much more coverage to come on PhoneDog.com with the LG Nitro HD. So keep it locked. We'll have dogfights and more. And in the meantime, like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDog. We're always doing cool stuff on there. And be sure to follow me on Twitter as well. Did you buy this device? Let me know what you think at Twitter, PhoneDog_Aaron, and on Facebook at Facebook.com/PhoneDogAB. Let me know what you think of the battery life, the signal strength, all that good stuff at one of those channels or one of those communication mediums. Thanks so much for watching. As always, we'll see you next time.